And now, with great pleasure, joining us is Texas Senator Mr. Ted Cruz. Senator Cruz, sir, it's great to see you. And I just want to talk about this, all right? No one's thrilled about the shutdown, but if the shutdown affords an opportunity to substantially reduce the size and scope of government, then I believe we have to take it. And I also believe Russ Vought at the OMB director is exactly the right guy in the right place, Senator Cruz. What you thinking?
Look, Larry, one of these days you're going to say something in your opening riff that I disagree with, but it is yet to happen, and I don't know that I'm going to hold my breath. You are exactly right, and you focused on the most important part of this shutdown. What is different from prior shutdowns is Russ Vought, the memo he put out to every cabinet secretary, it was identify employees and programs for a RIF, for a reduction in force. Typically what happens in a shutdown, the reason a shutdown happens is that under the Constitution, the federal government cannot spend money unless Congress appropriates the money. And the federal fiscal year ended at midnight last night, midnight September 30th, and funding for the government ended. Now, under existing law, that doesn't mean the whole government shuts down. It typically means 17 to 18% of the government shuts down. Everything that is deemed essential keeps on going. So as you noted, the military, all of our servicemen and women that keep us safe, they continue to keep us safe. Law enforcement, the FBI keeps locking up bank robbers and terrorists. Border Patrol, ICE, everyone engaged in critical law enforcement activities, they keep going. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all of that keeps going. VA benefits, all of that keeps going. What shuts down, each cabinet agency prepares a list of essential employees and non-essential employees. And the non-essential employees during a shutdown are told you have to go home, and nobody gets paid. Everyone's paycheck stops. What has historically happened is at the end of the shutdown, Schumer did this in the first Trump administration, he forced a shutdown of multiple weeks. No one got paid, and then at the end of the shutdown, everyone got paid back pay, even though they had basically a 4-week paid vacation. That's what's happened in the past. What Russ Vought has done here has really changed the dynamic, because he said, if Chuck Schumer and the Democrats force a shutdown, which they now have, that President Trump is going to use that as an opportunity not to tell people you're furloughed for a few days, but instead to send pink slips and to get rid of left-wing bureaucrats who are imposing left-wing priorities that are contrary to President Trump's priorities. I think that is fantastic, and what it's going to do is it's going to cause Democrats in Congress to scream and weep and gnash their teeth. I cannot wait for the next Democrat lunch when they start screaming at each other, when they start seeing pink slips go out at the EPA, at the Department of Labor, at the IRS, and suddenly the bureaucrats that they are entrusting to advance their job-killing agenda are themselves without a job. That's what's going to end this shutdown, as the Democrats are realizing that President Trump is making major advances for economic liberty as a result of the Democrats' temper tantrum.
You know, Russ Vought used to work for your friend and colleague, Phil Gramm. You probably know that, Senator Phil Gramm, a great free market, limited government advocate. You know, I never understood, Senator. I mean, I have been in several shutdowns when I worked for Reagan many years ago, and also I was there under Trump in the first term when we had that 35-day shutdown. If you're unnecessary, all right, then why should you be rehired? I've never understood that. I mean, just one doesn't lead to the other. And the thing about Russ is not encumbered by a lot of institutional concerns or what happened yesterday or what happened last year. He's got the law in front of him, and the law says that President Trump has the authority to furlough or fire, and in this case, there are going to be a lot more fires, and we're going to get rid of a lot of unnecessary programs, commissions, planning boards, you name it. And I just think this sets the stage more generally for strong executive authority in the budget area. That's all, and it's one of the points involved in this thing. There's no unelected branch of government like all these agencies. Oh my God, Lisa Cook can commit mortgage fraud, but she still remains a member of the Federal Reserve Board. That's nonsense. Let the president, he was elected, and if people don't like him, then they won't re-elect him, or in this case, they won't elect a Republican successor. You know, it's hardball. That's what we want to play, hardball.
Yeah. Listen, I very much agree. My copy of the Constitution and Article 2 of the Constitution, all executive power is vested in one president of the United States. I believe in the unitary executive, so I think decisions like there's a Supreme Court decision called Humphrey's Executor that concluded the president could not fire a commissioner of the Federal Trade Commission. I think the U.S. Supreme Court's going to overturn Humphrey's Executor and make clear that the President of the United States is the chief executive and he can terminate anyone he chooses in the federal government. I think that is the right constitutional outcome. As for your substantive point, you know, I remember back when Bill Clinton was president and Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House, and we had a big shutdown back then. And the Commerce Department put out a press release, and the press release said that 70% of the employees at Commerce had been designated as non-essential, so they were all furloughed, they were all at home. And the same press release said, but fear not, all of our essential functions are being carried out fully. And I remember laughing out loud and saying, that's great. You set the new bench line. You only need 30% of your employees because you've just told us you're able to do 100% of what you're required to do, and 70% of the employees are not needed to accomplish that task.
Right. That's it. That is it. If you're not essential, you're not essential. One leads to the other. Senator, I just have two more things for you. We have to go quickly, but one of them is your conversation with the former FBI Director James Comey, who's under investigation right now. If you'll permit us, we have some tape on what you said and what he said. Here it comes, sir. Hang on.
Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
Yeah, there we go. So, Senator Cruz, we don't have a lot of time, but you're a very shrewd lawyer, constitutional expert. What do you make of this whole to-do?
Well, I think James Comey lied under oath. He lied to Congress right there that you played. That's what he was indicted for, lying right there. That was under oath. He knew he was lying. He had lied previously to Congress under oath. And I think he felt complete impunity, that he would never be held to account. It is a felony to lie to Congress. And that's what the Department of Justice has indicted him for. A grand jury has indicted him. That's what he's going to be prosecuted for. And by the way, Comey's defense is not substantively that he did not lie to Congress under oath. It's simply, I hate Donald Trump. Trump, orange man bad, is essentially Comey's defense. And by the way, this is the same former director of the FBI who tweeted out a shell formation 8647, which means kill the 47th president of the United States.
Right.
A grossly inappropriate thing for a former director of the FBI to say. But Comey, sadly, is a partisan who hates Trump. And that may have played a role in why he felt he could lie to Congress and get away with it. I think the trial's going to be straightforward. And what he didn't do when he was in Congress is say that Andrew McCabe, his deputy, was lying. I think at the trial he might, and it'll be a determination. One or the other is lying, and I will tell you, the FBI Inspector General looked at additional evidence and concluded McCabe was telling the truth. I think that's the evidence you'll see put on at trial, and I think Comey is in a world of legal trouble.
Yeah. McCabe under oath just might grow a conscience. Who knows? Last one, Senator. This one's the easiest one of all. The easiest one of all. Texas developing a stock exchange.
Yeah.
I get it. Texas wins SEC approval for a new stock exchange that will challenge New York Stock Exchange up here in the blue state of New York. And here's another one for you. You may have seen it in the paper. J.P. Morgan, the great banking operation, has now more employees in Texas than it does in New York.
Yeah.
And of course, we're about to elect a socialist mayor. In a
Well,
word, Senator Cruz, because I've gone way over with you because I love talking to you so much. In a word, what's happening here?
Look, what's happening is New York is run by crazy people. Mondami, if he's elected, is a Marxist. And you are going to see people who believe in free enterprise, people who believe in property rights, people who don't want a jihadist radical who wants to defund the police, fleeing New York City and many coming to Texas. Look, I think the Texas Wall Street, or it's colloquially known as Y'all Street, which I think is pretty funny, I think that's going to be a powerhouse that if you want to go and not have a woke stock exchange trying to impose political ideology on you, but instead simply have an avenue to raise capital, Texas is going to be the place to do it.
Got it.
I wrote a comment urging the SEC to grant this approval, and I think you're seeing all sorts of particularly financial players coming to Texas. And I got to say, by the way, Larry, this show sure would look good broadcast from the great state of Texas.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean? I'm open to it. Senator Ted Cruz, we appreciate your time very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
You bet.